You've seen them, those big purple signs popping up all over Lake County, Illinois. Advia Credit Union, in bold letters, looking like they're planning to take over the entire Chicago suburbs, one branch at a time. If you're like most people, you probably drove past thinking, what the hell is an Advia? Did I miss a memo? When did this thing become a thing? Well, buckle up, because the story of how a Michigan credit union became Lake County's newest financial player is way more interesting than you'd expect. I've been driving around Lake County myself, and these purple signs are everywhere. Gurnee, Mundelein, Riverwoods, Crystal Lake, Cary, Woodstock. It's like they've multiplied overnight. And honestly, my first thought was the same as yours. Who is Advia, and where did they come from? Turns out this isn't some Silicon Valley fintech startup or private equity takeover. This is actually a fascinating story about how a credit union grows, how they serve communities, and why you might want to pay attention to those purple signs. Let's start at the beginning. Advia Credit Union doesn't just appear out of thin air. It actually has roots going back to 1935. The name Advia itself is relatively new, created from the merger of two credit unions, First Community Federal Credit Union, founded in 1938, and E&A Credit Union, founded in 1935. The name is pretty clever when you think about it. They provide advice, they're member advocates, and they offer advantages. It's like corporate branding meets actual mission statement, which is refreshingly honest in the financial services world. Here's what's interesting. Advia is headquartered in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So how did a Michigan credit union end up carpeting Lake County with purple signs? The answer is growth through strategic acquisitions, and it's actually a brilliant business model. Since 2019, Advia has been on an acquisition spree, buying up community banks and credit unions, including Golden Eagle Community Banks in McHenry County in 2019, and most recently, Northside Community Bank in October 2024. Northside Community Bank had been serving the area since 1997 with about $255 million in assets in 4 locations in Gurnee, Riverwoods, Mundelein, and Niles. When Advia acquired them, they didn't just absorb the assets, they kept the locations and added their purple branding. Now, this isn't some small-time operation. Advia now has $3 billion in assets and serves nearly 190,000 members across 32 branches in Michigan, Illinois, and Wisconsin. They're ranked in the top 3% of credit unions nationally in terms of asset size. To put that in perspective, they're bigger than many community banks, but they still operate with the credit union model, meaning they're member-owned, not-for-profit, and theoretically focused on serving their members rather than maximizing shareholder profits. So here's the question you're probably asking. Can I actually join this thing? The answer is yes, and it's surprisingly easy. Anyone in Lake County, Illinois can become a member of Advia according to their CEO, Jeff Fielder. But it actually goes beyond that. Their field of membership includes 7 eastern counties of Illinois: Boone, Cook, north of Irving Park Road, DuPage, Kane, Lake, McHenry, and Winnebago. So if you live or work in any of these counties, you're eligible. This is different from traditional credit unions that were limited to specific employers, unions, or very narrow geographic areas. Advia has what's called a community charter, which basically means if you're in their territory, you're in. Now, here's where it gets interesting from a consumer standpoint. Credit unions generally offer better rates and lower fees than traditional banks because they don't have shareholders demanding profits. But Advia takes this a step further with their Advantage Plus program. If you meet their Advantage Plus requirements, you can earn 5% APY on checking account balances up to $5,000. For context, most big banks are paying about 0.01% on checking accounts. That's not a typo. 5% versus 0.01%. To qualify for Advantage Plus, you typically need to have direct deposit, use your debit card a certain number of times per month, and sign up for e-statements. Basically, they want you to actually use them as your primary financial institution. They're also playing an interesting referral game. For every family member or friend you refer who becomes a member, you can earn up to $200, and there's no limit. You can refer as many people as you want. This isn't just marketing gimmickry. It's actually smart business for a credit union because their growth model depends on getting the right kind of members, the people who will use multiple services and maintain good relationships with one institution. But here's what I find most interesting about Advia's expansion into Lake County. They're not just opening branches and calling it a day. They're investing in community partnerships, sponsorships, and volunteer work. They support organizations like Habitat for Humanity, United Way of McHenry County, Children's Miracle Network, and dozens of local nonprofits. This isn't unusual for credit unions, but it's a stark contrast to what happens when a big bank moves into a market. When Chase or Wells Fargo opens a branch, they're extracting capital from the community and sending profits to shareholders in New York or San Francisco. When a credit union like Advia expands, they're theoretically reinvesting surpluses back into better rates, lower fees, and community support. They've also heavily invested in digital banking technology, which is crucial for competing with the big banks. They offer mobile check deposit, online bill pay, and the digital services you'd expect from a modern financial institution. This matters because one of the traditional knocks against credit unions was that they were technologically behind. Advia seems to have solved that problem while maintaining the personalized service that credit unions are known for. What's fascinating is the timing of their expansion. They're moving into Lake County at a time when people are increasingly frustrated with big bank fees, poor customer service, and the general feeling that banks don't care about individual customers. Meanwhile, community banks are getting squeezed by compliance costs and competition. Credit unions like Advia are positioned perfectly to capture consumers who want better rates and services, but still need the convenience and technology of a larger institution. If you're thinking about checking them out, they're currently offering some pretty aggressive new member incentives. New members can earn up to $1,000 through various opening and loan incentives. You can get $500 for opening a mortgage of $125,000 or more, $250 for qualifying for Advantage Plus status, and another $250 for getting a loan of $10,000 or more. That's real money, not just promotional rates that disappear after 3 months. Let's talk about those purple signs for a second. This is actually brilliant branding strategy. In a sea of blue bank logos, Chase, Citi, Bank of America, red logos, Wells Fargo, Santander, and green logos, TD Bank, Regions, purple stands out. It's distinctive without being obnoxious, professional without being boring. And now that you know what to look for, you'll start seeing them everywhere. That's not an accident. It's a coordinated brand rollout across their expansion markets. What I find most interesting is their acquisition strategy. Instead of trying to build branches from scratch in new markets, they're buying existing community banks and credit unions that already have customer relationships and local market knowledge. This is smart for several reasons. They get immediate market penetration, they inherit customers who are already comfortable with community-focused banking, and they can leverage existing staff who understand the local market. The Northside Community Bank acquisition brought them not just 4 branches, but 35 employees and existing customer relationships built over 27 years. That's incredibly valuable in the financial services industry. Here's something most people don't know about credit unions. They participate in shared branching networks. Advia participates in shared branching networks nationally and offers over 35,000 surcharge-free ATM locations through the Co-op Network, Alliance One Network, and select retail outlets. What this means is that even though Advia only has 32 branches, their members can conduct transactions at thousands of other credit union branches across the country. It's like having a nationwide branch network without the overhead. Credit unions also have some regulatory advantages that banks don't. They're exempt from federal income taxes because of their not-for-profit status, member-owned structure. This allows them to offer better rates and lower fees than banks that have to pay corporate taxes and generate profits for shareholders. They're also regulated differently by the National Credit Union Administration, or NCUA, rather than the FDIC and other bank regulators. This sometimes allows them to be more flexible in their lending and service offerings. So, what does this all mean for you as a potential customer? If you're currently banking with a big national bank and paying monthly fees, overdraft charges, and getting minimal interest on your deposits, Advia might be worth a look. The 5% checking account rate alone could be worth hundreds of dollars per year if you maintain the minimum requirements. And if you're in the market for a car loan or mortgage, credit unions typically offer rates that are 0.5% to 1% lower than banks. Of course, there are always trade-offs. Credit unions typically have fewer locations than big banks, though Advia's shared branching network helps with that. They might have fewer specialized services for business banking or investment management, and while their technology has improved dramatically, they still might not have all the bells and whistles of a major bank's mobile app or online platform. Here's what credit unions like Advia offer that big banks often don't. Actual human customer service. Their stated values include keeping people at the core and building and strengthening relationships. When you call their customer service line, you're more likely to talk to someone who can actually help you solve your problem rather than reading from a script and transferring you to 6 different departments. The expansion of credit unions like Advia into markets like Lake County represents something bigger than just financial services competition. It's about whether local communities will be served by institutions that are accountable to those communities or by faceless corporations that extract wealth and send it elsewhere. When Advia talks about advancing lives in our communities through volunteerism, sponsorships, and grants, that money stays local. When Wells Fargo reports quarterly earnings, those profits go to shareholders around the world. Now, I'm not telling you to immediately switch all your banking to Advia. That's a personal decision based on your specific needs and circumstances, although it might be beneficial to you. But I am saying that if you've been frustrated with your current bank, it might be worth walking into one of those purple sign branches and having a conversation. At a minimum, you might discover that you can get better rates, lower fees, and better service. At best, you might find a financial institution that actually treats you like a member owner rather than just another account number. Based on their growth trajectory and acquisition strategy, I expect we'll be seeing more purple Advia signs throughout the Chicago suburbs. They've got the capital, the technology, and the business model to continue expanding. The question is whether they can maintain their community-focused culture as they grow, or whether they'll eventually just become another large financial institution that's lost touch with its member owners. So there you have it. The story behind those purple signs you've been seeing all over Lake County. Advia Credit Union, a 90-year-old institution with Michigan roots, a growth through acquisition strategy, and a mission to provide real advantages for real people. Whether that mission survives or rapid expansion remains to be seen, but for now, at least, they're offering Lake County residents an alternative to big bank frustration and community bank limitations. Next time you see one of those purple signs, you'll know exactly what you're looking at. A credit union that's betting they can serve your financial needs better than the competition. And honestly, they just might be right about it.